Welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley. I'm the host of this as well as the founder of the Passion of Poetry. And today I'm delighted to have on the show Hiram Larew. Welcome, Hiram.
Hello,
And,
Annette.
and Brian Donald James. You are back again. You've been on
Yes,
here a lot lately. Thank you for both for coming and agreeing. We are going to be highlighting some of their works, but we also are talking about an organization that I believe Hiram, you started, Poetry X Hunger. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to give the stage to you, and I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and then your organization. So I'm going to give the
sure.
stage to you. If you would do that, that would be
Sure.
great.
Well, first and foremost, let me thank you, Annette, for this opportunity to share the mic with my good friend, Brian Donnell James, um, and to visit with you a little bit about this initiative I started, I think it's about 5 or 6 years ago, called Poetry X Hunger. We'll be talking. Brian is an amazing ambassador of that initiative, and so he and I will be talking a little bit about it. But it was something that I thought we probably needed locally, regionally, nationally, and even globally as a way of bringing poets from around the world, poets from all over the world, to contribute their talents to fight hunger. And with support from groups like the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, many food banks and art councils and others, we've stood up and designed and offered a website, poetryxhunger.com. That's just poetry and the letter X, like you're Xing out hunger, poetryxhunger.com, where we now have about 400 to maybe 500 at this point, poems from poets, literally all over the world, young poets, elder poets, and everyone in between, as they have written about some aspect of empty stomach hunger, not hunger of the heart, not hunger of the soul, not hunger of the spirit, but hunger of the stomach, empty stomach hunger. And we celebrate those poems on the website by offering them completely freely to any and all who would use them. Many of the poets, like Brian, have recorded themselves presenting their work. So we have videos and or audio recordings of the poets that are also available. And that's kind of a key point. We wanted to make sure that we had a body of poetry, a body of work that could be used to fight hunger, but we also wanted to start using it to fight hunger. And so, for example, last year, we used those poems to raise more than $13,000 for anti hunger groups around the world and locally here in Maryland and around the country, around the US. So we are turning poetry into food, and that we're raising money using those poems and then contributing that to anti-hunger groups. We're also using the poems to raise awareness amongst the public. And one of the best examples we have of that is a huge anti-hunger organization that works around the world as well as in the US, Feed the Children, chose a poem off the website, off the Poetry X Hunger website, a poem by Josephine Larew, a Canadian poet, and incorporated it into a newly produced public service announcement, 1 minute public service announcement. And that PSA, public service announcement, has been viewed by 137, at the last time I checked, 137,000 folks on YouTube, and recently received 5 national Telly Awards. So the poems are helping to raise support to fight hunger, raise financial support, and then also working to raise awareness so that people are tuned in to the fact that one, hunger is very much with us. We had made some progress a few years back with COVID, with climate change, with conflict. Hunger is back up on the upswing. So raise awareness about hunger is everywhere, and it truly is everywhere. It's next door to us. It's on our college campuses. It's in our communities, both urban and suburban and rural communities. It's all over the country and certainly all over the world. And so raising awareness about that. Thanks for letting me explain a little bit.
No, no, I think it's remarkable that you raised $13,000. That's amazing, and not an easy feat, I'm sure. But how great is that? And then you said 138,000. What was that? Um,
Views on YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, the public service announcement has been viewed by 137. I think I checked it a couple of days ago. 137,000. You know, when I post a YouTube, I don't know about you, Brian, but when I post a YouTube, I consider if I get 400 or 500 views, pretty successful. But this
Yeah, yeah,
video has been viewed by 137,000 folks. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure those views will continue to
Yes.
add up.
Yes.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, you have sent me some videos that we wanted to share regarding this, and I think it might be a little rough while I get started doing these.
Sure.
Some of them need to be enhanced. So let me kind of get those set up, and we'll
Okay.
start showing some of those.
Sure. I think while you're getting those ready, let me just preface them by saying that these are some videos that are actually on the website, the Poetry X Hunger website. So they're kind of examples of what we have available. All the poems on the website are available in text form. Some of them, many of them, are available as recordings. So, yeah.
That is wonderful. Okay, so let me go to this first one here. I think that I need to make this bigger because I remember when I first started watching this.
I have never experienced hunger, not the hunger that lingers for days and blinds the mind to possibilities. The yard was brimming in guayabas, passion fruit and plantains for the taking, and chickens laid eggs. The sun was strong and the rains reliable. There were no insect collapse, and pollination happened. Though hurricanes still threatened their vicious cycles, no one saw coming, but not as many. Not like the test of now, with the ocean rising and corals bleaching, and guns blocking trucks full of grain, while fields burn as food shrivels, spoils, and molds in wastelands. Appetites everywhere expanding. And yet I wonder why I feel this yearning, this knowing, this unrelating crave.
Mhm.
Great. So that is Amelia, is that correct?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes.
So I started another one accidentally.
Okay.
Can you stop that real quick? It automatically just opened up
Yeah.
this other
Yeah. It goes to
video.
the next one. Yeah.
So we'll just go to that. I'll go ahead. But Amelia, do you want to tell us who that was? That was Amelia
I think, let's see, I'm
Diaz,
looking.
Diaz Ettinger or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And as you
Yeah.
could probably sense from her reading of it, English may be a second language for her. She obviously is very fluent in it. But we have poets contributing from all over the world. And most all the poems are in English on the website. We do have a few in Spanish and in English. We're looking for more poems in different languages translated into English as well, so that the reader has both versions. But yeah, we have that kind of variety on the website.
Wonderful. That is great. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to keep going with these. So the
Okay.
next one that we have is, here we go. It is this one, I think it's Hunger Pains.
Yeah,
Let's see
that's
what we
Aaron
have.
R., I believe. Yeah.
First prize winner. In a world that's concerned with the economy and marketing numbers, how do we have people out here starving and dealing with hunger? We've come too far as nations to be facing this situation. So we have a plan in 2030 as our destination. And I'm not talking about decreasing, I'm talking about elimination. So we don't have anybody starving in any nation. Speaking of nations, it's kind of strange to me that in this land of plenty of opportunity, there's people walking down the street without food to eat. We spend millions of dollars on entertainment, but that's another topic. There's people out here starving. We need to do something to stop it. We spend money on war, but we need to be at war. We're not feeding the poor. This is a situation we can no longer ignore. I mean, families with children walking around with their stomachs growling and sore. We owe it to each other to do so much more. So let's depend on each other and help one another. In order to stop world hunger, the world's going to need one another. So my challenge to you and my challenge to me, do something small or large or independently, because together everyone achieves more. If we unite as a team, world hunger will be no more. We can achieve this dream. That sounds like a plan that's worth it to me. So let's all embark on this journey and do little by little, day by day, until 2030 and stop the hunger pains that stain our society.
Mm. Mm.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
So,
that was Aaron R. He lives in Arlington, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. And that particular poem, Hunger Pains, um, won the 2000, I believe, the 2019 World Food Day Poetry Prize offered by the United Nations and Poetry X Hunger. And the poem exemplifies the fact that we've also have all kinds of styles of poems on the website. Aaron R. is a wonderful presentation poet, not slam, but he presents, he memorizes and recites his poem. And so we have those kind of poems on there as well.
that's wonderful. We have a couple comments. I'm just going to go to those real quick and see
Sure.
what we have. Kathy
Sure.
Griffith, who is one of my admin. Hi, Kathy. Kat. You are doing amazing work, she says.
Oh, well,
And
that's
she
good.
says she will definitely visit your website. So
Great. Great.
thanks for that, Kat. Appreciate it. Appreciate your watching. So we're going to keep going with these. I'm going to go
Well,
to the
you
next one. I'm
great.
sorry.
While you cue that one up, let me just go back to the first one and make sure I got the attribution correct. That first poem you played was I Have Never Experienced Hunger, and it was by poet Amelia Diaz Ettinger. And it is on the Poetry X Hunger website.
Very good. Very good. And you said you have over 500 poems?
I think there are about between 400 and 500. I've kind of lost track at this point, but there are a lot of poems. Yeah.
That is wonderful. So we're going to go to this next one here, and let me get that
Is this the one
up
by
here. This is by
Wasik Mohammed?
yes.
Yes. This one
Yes.
is also titled, Aaron R's was titled Hunger Pains. This one is titled Hunger Pain.
Okay. So
Titled Hunger Pain. Hungry for the rain, hungry for the fall, hunger for all. As the drops fill me with hope, I breathe a sigh of relief. I spot green growth underneath. My rumbling stomach disagrees So I imagine the fruits of my labor, fruits that will deceive, hungry for the truth. Hunger rises up, hunger and its pain.
Mm.
Thank
Title.
you. Thank you. That was wonderful.
That's by
So,
Wasik Mohammed, and again illustrates a poem that's very haunting in its delivery and in its content. Wasik
yeah,
Mohammed. Yeah.
indeed, indeed. So, would they go to your website if they want to donate? They can make donations through the
Yes,
website.
yes, we have a big, bright front page of the website. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
So, the website again is it thepoetryxhunger.com?
Yes, it's www.poetryxhunger, all one phrase, .com.
Okay, great. And we'll reiterate that again later
Sure.
as well, so we don't miss it. So now we have another one. Let me go to. I'm trying to see if that's one we already did.
Yeah,
Is there a
Um,
way to turn them up a little bit?
the
I
volume.
can't. Oh well, I have my volume turned up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know for sure. Isn't that horrible? I should know that.
Well, maybe everyone on their own computers as they play them back can
Yeah.
adjust the volume a little bit.
I,
I believe that's all of the videos I may have shared with you,
Okay.
Annette, but we have with us here on this session a poet of renown, Brian Donnell James, who won the 2020 World Food Day Poetry Prize for his amazing poem titled Testimony. And there is a video of him, video recording of him presenting that work on the website, but we have him live in this StreamYard room. So I don't know if we could talk him into maybe
Yeah.
reading that.
Are you prepared to read that, Brian? And he won an award from the United Nations from this, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
yes,
I'm going to give the stage to you, Brian, if you would, please.
absolutely. Thank you. I think the one thing that is consistent with the poems that you've heard is there is a emotion that is conveyed with the piece, a nurturing energy, and that's why it's such an honor for me to be involved with this organization. And Dr. Larew is, and privately, is not only a fantastic poet, but a even better human being. And so, as I say, it's an honor for me to be involved with anything that he does, especially Poetry X Hunger, which is right in here and in my spirit. So, yes, I'll go ahead and share a testimony. As Dr. Larew said, it was a 2020 award, and I was honored to be given or pass the baton by Aaron R., who is a fantastic poet himself. I believe his poem was the second poem. So I'll get right into the piece. Testimony. I was a teenage father then, with little money. My wife and I saved our lunch so that our son could eat. And we went without a meal that day. As night approached, we had hoped that he would sleep until morning. And with every twist and turn he made, my anxiety rose and fell. But as toddlers do, he rose hungry, rubbing circles upon his belly. He was trying to be a big boy, trying to control the desperation that I saw in his eyes. So I nodded to my wife, and we gathered change from everywhere, anywhere, between cushions and under couches, closets, desk, and cabinet drawers. And I was off to shop with newly found pocket change. It should have been enough for some instant noodles, Kool-Aid, bread, and peanut butter. Yet, even as I counted out the change, and the people in line smirked and commented, the cashier and I knew I did not have enough. My eyes swelled, and I tried to control my desperation. But she smiled and said, "Well, honey, that's just enough." I nodded as she bagged my food, and as I left, I turned to whisper a soft thank you. Walking back to our little apartment, I will never forget that feeling. Emotion overcame me, not embarrassment nor shame, just thankfulness, just love. I'll do anything for my boy. In peace. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I never get tired of hearing that at all. It's beautiful every
And
time
yet
you do
you can see, I think, pretty clearly. You can hear and you can feel, I think, pretty clearly why that is such an award-winning poem that has been aired pretty darn widely. I'll put it that way. I often use Brian's recording of it in anti-hunger meetings, online or in person. I just used it this past weekend at an event. I read it and I can't do near justice to it. Brian does it just incredibly beautifully, but it's such a powerful poem that I use it kind of as our flag waving, one of our flag waving poems for the initiative.
And
very
we have a
good.
joke whereas when I reach a certain line, Brother Hiram, Dr. Hiram, he weeps a little bit.
Yes.
But the only time I ever wept upon hearing that poem is when he read it so beautifully at another
Mm.
event.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
touched me. And I was saying to myself, I wrote that.
Yeah, and I saw that video. It was very touching. So I can
Yes, yes,
understand.
yes,
You
yes.
know, Annette, a lot of people will ask, well, or say, well, poetry doesn't have anything to do with hunger. I mean, why? What's all that about? And it's through poems like Brian's that I make the point that while poetry will never end hunger, I think we all understand that. I
Yeah.
think it can absolutely help because while we have a lot of statistics, trend lines, science know how about preventing and understanding hunger, and we need all of that, we need all of that information,
Right.
data. We also need ways to grab hearts and grab
Mhm.
ears and minds. And it's through poems like Brian's that
Yeah.
I think we are doing that. We can do it, and I believe we are doing it. So
Yeah, and recently on the Pop Chat, we had two of which Brian was involved in both panels, and the discussion was um, poets, the power of our ink, and the responsibility and how we can make an impact. So I think that there is so much. I think that we can really turn heads. I think that we can enlighten people on
yeah,
many subject matters and and really bring new perspective to things. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
having a young poet sometimes I find can also really reach out and grab. And so we're all the time trying to encourage young poets to not only write about some aspect of hunger, and then send those poems to us so that we can post them and publish them, because young people just they hardly have to say their name, and people are tuned into what they're saying. So
yeah. Well, it's great that they're able to embrace that,
yeah,
and that they're able to have lend a empathetic ear and voice to those causes as well. So
yeah.
that's wonderful. We have another comment
Huh.
Anne, and I'm sorry, Detchen. it sounds like it's French, and I'm not good at French, but it might not be French. So, Mr. James, that was such a powerful, intimate poem. It will stick with me for some time. Thank you for sharing. Indeed, thank you, Brian. Again, um, it said so much, and yeah, it's
And you should go back to, if you want to reread Brian's poem, go back to the website because it's right there. And it's pretty easy to find. We've got a search bar on the front page, so you can just type in Brian Donnell James, and I believe that poem will pop
pop
right
up.
up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Thank you. Thank you,
wonderful.
dear sister Anne. I appreciate your comment.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for commenting. So, so everyone, please visit poetryxhunger.com, and please, and if you want to also contribute a poem there as well, that's welcome, as well as donations, and also sharing the site, sharing this video, whatever, to enlighten people to the need. And beyond hunger, we have two renowned and wonderful poets here tonight that we would like to highlight. So, yes, I
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Annette, I'm so grateful to you for letting us visit for just a few minutes about Poetry X Hunger. And indeed, Brian brings all of his skills as a terrific poet to writing any poem that he presents or writes and presents. And we were so lucky to have him use those talents for Poetry X Hunger. I'm also a poet. I've been, Brian, I don't know how long you've been writing poems. I've been writing them for kind of as long as I can remember. And for me, poetry is just a really wonderful friend. I rely on poetry in so many ways, both writing it and then enjoying reading others' work as well. And I think there is kind of a groundswell of interest in poetry. I see it popping up in so many places these days. So it's a matter of kind of catching that wave of interest and popularity and contributing a little bit to it. So yeah, I know Brian's been very active writing and presenting and winning awards for his poems, and I've been pretty active too. So yeah.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So you've been writing poetry for how long, Hiram?
Well, I can't put a specific date on it, but I think I've been writing since I was at least a young teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're very renowned for your works, and and I can see why. I recently purchased his books. Here, y'all.
Thanks.
You too can get these on Amazon. So, purchased both of them and was reading some of them today, and marvelous works. So,
Thank
I
you,
can
Annette.
certainly see why you are renowned, as Brian is as well. So, if you would like to share some of your work with us, we would love
Well,
that.
sure. And Brian, are you prepared also to maybe share another poem?
Yes, I can offer two if time permits.
Okay, great. Um, well, just as by way of background, I retired about 8 years ago now, and moved out towards Annapolis, Maryland, which is the capital of Maryland, on the water. I rent a little cottage on the water, and so lucky, privileged to be in such a spot. And I think it's probably really influenced, the setting I'm in has really influenced what I've been writing about. This is a poem that is going to appear in an upcoming collection. The collection is titled This Much Vary. The title of the poem is Wilt or Stray. And it's all about being grateful, maybe not being grateful enough. And it first appeared in a journal called Poetry Bus. So here's a poem, Wilt or Stray. I am incredibly lucky. Even this haze knows it. Even my useless gaze says so in every way. To be where I am now, living like this, is like cherries on a branch. In fact, I'm not nearly grateful enough for this mud and for its reasons. Not thankful enough for fences blown down or kinked hoses. No, I don't deserve porches. In fact, I need to tip my hat in love and honor to every buzzing swarm that's coming at me, or to any wilt or stray. And I should surely thank my lucky stars, my blessings, for what last night had its way with the row of beans out back in the garden. So Annette, that's a poem about trying to be grateful enough.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful indeed. Sorry. I'm trying to plug me in before I go away. So I came about an hour early today. I got confused, so I had unplugged me for a while. That was beautiful. And where do you get your inspiration when you write, Hiram?
Well, it kind of comes out of the blue often. I'll see something, hear something, or feel something all of a sudden. And if I've learned, if I don't jot something down right then and there, stop everything else and jot it down, I'll often forget what I have been thinking about. But as I was mentioning, I think a lot of the poems that I've written in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, well, basically since COVID, during COVID and since, are about just being able to live in such a really lovely spot. And every morning I take a pretty long walk, and every morning it seems like I hear, see, or feel something that's worth writing about.
So Anne is my friend, and she's made another comment. And I'm sorry, Anne, that I did not ever ask you how you pronounce your last name, but we'll talk about that later. So Dr. Larew, that was the perfect poem to read when trying to get into the present moment. Your delivery was delightful. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, well, thank you, Anne. That was very nice.
Thank you for coming. Anne is also a writer, and she writes very well as well. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I watched an interview with you with someone, I can't remember, because you've been interviewed many times, and there's many interviews on YouTube. If y'all want to look them up, then you'll see all kinds. But there was one where they did the American Sign Language poem.
Oh, yeah.
And I have that to show, if you don't mind.
Sure. May I cue it up? Would that be okay? Can I cue it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just explain. This is, yeah, I know I'm biased, okay? But I do just take delight in this video. So I have always wanted one of my poems to be translated into American Sign Language. When I was a young kid, I learned American Sign Language. I've kind of forgotten it since. But I knew enough about it to know that it's beautifully expressive. So about 4 years ago, I think, I started kind of looking around, and to make a long story short, I was very lucky to meet online a deaf poet, Eric Epstein. I think Eric lives in the Southwest US, I believe. He shopped, and I asked him if he would be willing to do this, to translate one of my poems. He said he would be willing to, And he went on my website and shopped around. I think I sent him a couple of poems, and he said, well, let me look a little bit more. So that was fine. And he came back with this poem that he found on my website. And the next thing I know, he had sent me this video, and I personally think it's magical.
It is.
Even if you'll notice, he even uses his tongue to interpret the poem. And he also provided a back of the curtain video. It's about 4 minutes. The poem video is about 2 minutes. But he also accompanied it with a video where he describes the process he used to translate the poem. And the voice in that video is a mutual friend who reads sign language or understands sign language, but is not deaf. So she could speak for him as he interpreted how he translated the poem. So it's kind of a package deal. But yes, if you would be willing, I think it's about 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
it's a silent video, so no one will hear anything. There's nothing wrong with your computer, but he does caption it with the lines of the poem as he's interpreting, as he translates.
And it's just beautiful. I was
I
so
think so.
touched when I saw it. It really brought tears to my eyes. It's just a beautiful piece. So I'm going to cue that up,
Okay,
and you
great.
all enjoy this. This will be wonderful to watch. So wow. Wow, it's absolutely beautiful. And the thing is it doesn't have any sound, and I think that makes you really tune in to him and what he's doing, because what he's doing is he's really acting it too. He's doing the signs, but
Yes,
he's so
yes,
dramatic and
yes,
very much the actor in that role.
absolutely. It's a completely, well, it's not a different poem, but it's just, it's another form of the poem. And as I say, I know I'm biased, but I just take delight in
You
that.
should be. You should be. That's marvelous. If all of us were gifted with that, what a gift that would be. Just one poem from
Well,
in America.
it also displays or illustrates the power of partnerships. As Brian well knows, I mean, working with musicians, with visual artists, in this case with an ASL translator. I've had the opportunity to work with a whistler. I've always wanted somebody whistling behind my poems. But those kind of opportunities, you never know exactly what's going to result, what the result's going to be. But typically they are much, one and plus one equals about 10 usually,
Yeah.
just in terms of what's created. So I'm always very grateful to those who are willing to partner.
Yeah, I think that's why when we lost Alan Johnson, our narrator, last year, it was such a
Yeah,
big thing because he was a composer, so he'd compose the music and he'd narrate it and put the
he did
video
a
together.
beautiful job. Yeah,
Yeah, he was just marvelous.
yeah.
But well, if you would read some more of your work, that would be lovely.
Well, let's see.
We'll,
Maybe.
we'll, we'll get to Brian. Don't worry, Brian will be in there
Okay.
too.
Okay. Great. Let me read um, uh, one off or from my collection, Patchy Ways. This hopped on to that prime real estate. Whoops. The prime real estate of the back cover. So it's on the back cover of Patchy Ways. It's also in the book, but this is a love poem. It's titled Hats or Trees. We are alive, my love, and there is your chin. Or porch lights turned on, and your grin as far as fields or trains can see. What more than this can ever be, my love? This overhum of time that through whatever ways will become in dusk the breeze of hats or trees, my love. This just right here, this now, my love, and what's to come, and we're alive. And so, my love, these O's that blend, how mornings know, or evenings hum, as all the gathers breathe. So that's a little bit of a love poem. Again, just being grateful for being in the moment.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think if you have do you have a certain genre of poetry that you tend to migrate towards?
Maybe not so much a genre. My ears are pretty big, so I kind of enjoy all types of poems,
Mhm.
spoken word, slam, um, traditionally presented, written and presented. I think more and more I enjoy and celebrate kind of surprise in poems. Um, as Brian was saying, also just kind of the heart grab of poems also is really important as far as I'm concerned. So that's not a very clear answer to your question, but uh, I pick a lot of the items off of the poetry menu and like them all. I like them all. There aren't too many types of poems that I'm not quite as keen about. Very few.
Do you
Most of
have
them.
a certain poet that inspired you?
Well, I mean, my ears have always loved um, poems by Langston Hughes, by E. E. Cummings. When I was a kid, Edgar Allan Poe was magic. I mean, because it just was like it
Yeah,
echoes. His poems echo. Emily Dickinson. I mean, some of the
great.
ones that everyone likes, I also enjoy. And there are so many fine poets writing today. It's kind of
Wow.
hard to keep up with everyone, but there are several kind of present day poets who who I like to tune into occasionally as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's really, because when you go and you look up poetry books, and you always get like maybe the top 100 poets and those classics that we all know and those names that we all know. And I don't know if there is one, but there really needs to be one for the contemporary poets now that are so great because there's so many poets that
Yeah.
go unrecognized, I think.
And truly from all over the world. And in recent years, thank goodness, many of the voices that had traditionally not been represented in the kind of the upper echelon of poetry are now they're being given voice. And so the diversity of voices is probably as large as it's ever been. And so there's just, I mean, and the topics that people are writing poems about, it's amazing to me. I mean, obviously they're political poems, poems about headlines, poems of incredible distress, hurt, anger. There are amazing poems about love, about caring. So, and then there are poems about goldfish. There are poems about oil cans. I mean, you name it, and somebody has written a poem about it.
The imagination is amazing what it
Yeah.
can do. Yeah. Um, well, speaking of contemporary great poets, why don't we migrate over to get one of Brian Donald James's, sir?
Well, thank you so much. I first had to laugh a bit when my dear brother Dr. Larew said something about the size of his ears. All I know is the size of his heart, and that's the biggest, well, the biggest I've ever known. So that's all that really matters to me. Um, so I'll share just two poems, one that speaks to hunger, and then one also about love, just to piggyback on my brother's readings. The first piece is called "The Park Dwellers." We stroll past them quickly, the inhabitants of the park, with our nostrils held high, practicing a daily routine. And if we give a blessing, extended hand for the exchange of pocket change, we never look them into their eyes, because we fear we might discover that we are kindred, human, because we fear hunger, to be the ones looking into the restaurant windows but never dining. See, they remind us of our own vulnerability. They open windows of our souls. The mirrors and the images never change. But we say that their life is somehow deserved, to disassociate ourselves, knowing fully well that we are only one paycheck away from this fate. A twinkle of hope still resides in the eyes of the children here. Their smiles bless passers who parade in a hastened pace. In this atmosphere, there is no haven of safety from the elements, but they deserve warm clothes and meals prepared by loving hands. They deserve to have coats zipped up in winters by loving hands, to be tucked in bed sheets by loving hands. The old ones still dream of warm seasons past, memories of a kitchen with a large wooden fork and spoon hanging high on faux wood panel walls and checkerboard floors. They recall the garden tomatoes, potatoes, and collard greens. But with a stroke of bad luck, a bad choice, and addiction, they find themselves in a city of tents where crock pots are replaced with waste bins. Together, they are the phantoms of the twilight that disappear into alleys, the seen yet unseen passengers traveling under moon and sun in a walking purgatory, praying for rebirth and rejuvenation, waiting for us to show compassion and mercy. And until then, they dwell, sit on benches and tell their tales, and on beds of concrete or cardboard, dream in peace.
Mm, mm, right.
It's
And
beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful.
Wow.
thank you. Thank you.
I just
And
thought of something that I want to do, and that is this. I know how much you all care for each other and respect each other, and both of you think a lot of each other.
Yes.
So, what I want to do is I'll start with Hiram first, and I want you describe to us Brian Donald James. What kind of
Mm.
man? What kind of man is he?
Um, I've only met Brian in person once, but I feel like I've known Brian for such a long time, even though I think we only kind of became acquaintances on Zoom and through emails maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I do consider him a brother in poetry. Uh, it's his compassion. Obviously, as just displayed his talent for saying what needs to be said and saying it in ways that I think everyone can understand and appreciate and feel. That is just it's winning, and it won me over pretty quickly. I first got to know Brian through the poem he submitted to this competition that he then went on to win. But it was really only after he had won the award, he presented the award, and then we began to work a little bit together on making sure that that poem was widely known and appreciated, that I began to realize he's got a heart of gold and a pen of what would you say, silver diamond? I'm not sure what the right word is, but yeah, he's a gem. He's a real gem.
Good. That's wonderful. And I concur with all of that. So, Brian, tell us about Hiram.
well, I just don't have enough time.
That's a good answer in and of itself.
I would,
So,
I would
yeah.
just, I mean, this man has all your life you wish to affect the world and change the world. Has always been a desire of mine. It's always been a desire of mine to alleviate anxiety, depression, things like hunger and things of this nature, and just affect the world. There's very few human beings that have actually done that. This gentleman has literally changed so many people's lives and attitudes toward making the world a better place. And I mean literally all over the world, with his poetic endeavors and also his charity, that's in his heart. I always tell my dear brother that I have a great love and respect for him every single time we exchange emails. And I see he's concurring to that. So I just simply don't have enough time. And there's so many artists that would stand up and agree with me and give testimony to what a wonderful human being. I say first, I always tell them that this man is, and then he is a fabulous poet to boot. And then he helps others. He is a facilitator of helping others, and of all races, all creeds. He doesn't care. And he's a perfect model of what I'm trying to be, so
And
thank
I've asked Brian if he could maybe help me with public relations a little bit.
Anytime,
I think you can
anywhere.
see in that we have a mutual admiration society here, big time. So I was,
Yeah.
and when you were kind enough to offer the mic time here this evening, as far as I was concerned, there was, no need to decide anything. It was like, if Brian can do it, it would be great if Brian could join us. So
I appreciate that, and I also want to take time out to give Annette her props.
yes,
Annette is a tireless worker for this platform. She graciously interviewed me and has supported me in my work since then. We talk privately. Annette is also a fabulous person, and So I wanted to give you your flowers as well, Annette.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Mhm.
Well, it's my hopes to enlighten the world and really infuse poetry more into our society. So, still don't know how I'm going to do that one these days, but I'm still working on it.
I think
So,
you are. Yeah.
yeah,
Doing a fabulous job.
Yeah.
having wonderful poets such as yourself on here.
Hey,
So,
look, 100 and what, 30,000 now? 130, 28,
well, not
130,000.
quite. We're at 120. I think we're almost 129. We'll be probably 130 in the next week or two.
That's a
Wow.
lot of people giving you support.
Yeah. Goodness. You need to get
I
your
don't.
autograph now.
We grew 50,000 in 3 months. Not this summer, but the
Hey,
summer before, and I don't know how that happened. I don't know where they came. Like one day we went 2,000 people, and it's like, where do
Wow.
they come from? I
Wow.
don't know. I don't get it.
Wow.
But we have another comment from Anne who says, "Mr. James, you are such a relevant poet for today's society. Keep
Yes.
up the good work. Indeed, you are."
thank
So.
you.
We're getting to the close, so I want each of you to present one more poem each that you would like to close out on. Actually, before I do that, Hiram, I'm going to ask you a question that
Sure.
I'm not going to let you get away with not answering. That I asked
Okay.
poets,
Okay.
all the poets who are on here. I think Brian has answered it before,
Okay.
and that is if you come across Aladdin's lamp tomorrow. And
Hmm.
you can are you granted 3 wishes, anything that you want to wish for? What would your 3 wishes be?
Um, a line of writing a line of poetry that is remembered for some time to come. That would be one thing. Um, Friendships that last is definitely something. And then I don't know. I just have to give a nod, I think, to the natural world. I'm always learning from it. I respect it. Particularly during COVID, when we weren't really able to get together much with each other than through online.
Yeah.
The natural world for me was such a balm, such a solace. I am always grateful to it. So yeah, those would be three, I guess, 3 wishes.
I like those, and they're different than any other I've heard. So
Oh,
that's wonderful. No, that's good. That's good when somebody because some people will do world peace, which is good and everything, but it's pretty much the number one on some. So I love those. Actually, those are marvelous. Brian, I'm going to have you recite another poem, and then we're going to end up with dear Hiram. So if you would take the stage and share another one of yours, please.
Absolutely. I'm going to share quickly a poem that you're fond of. As I said, matching my dear brother with a love poem. This piece is called Blind. Yet even when I close my eyes and fall into the abstract art ablaze in color against my inner blackness, your image beckons through, an outline etched in a vivid shade. In stellar points of light, I see you, like moonbeams on the dark seas of my mind. And on this shoreline of eternity, I stand on notice, on the abyss of an endless void. As you ebb and flow with my pulse, you are the pattern of my heartbeat. And when I close my eyes, I find myself almost wishing to be blind, if only to touch you in new dimensions and make love to you in new depths. Go deeper than thy flesh. I want to know thy essence, the destination where marrow and bone are replaced by stardust and cosmos, where your soul is free. I want to know you there, my love. And yes, I would choose to remain blind, to be forever cast in ebony, save for your likeness, save for your image. For this would be the better blessing, indeed, my heaven. In peace.
Wow.
Thank you.
Woo.
As always, I love that, and I would hope that someday someone can write something wonderful and marvelous like that for me, but I don't think it's going to happen. But just saying, if like
Just saying.
someday somebody
Just putting it in the universe,
Wow.
put it out there, just in case, like if you fall in love at first sight and just want to write me something romantic, that would be great.
I can see it happening. You're very beautiful.
Oh, wow. So, Hiram, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have you on and to listen to your poetry and to get to know you better as not only a poet, but really a humanitarian, philanthropist. You've done so much. So, and I would like to hear your last one and then we'll close out. But a privilege. I'm glad that Brian paid you some extra to come on. He flipped you about 10 or something. Or maybe 20.
Well, and my gratitude to you, Annette, to both of you all for making this possible. Yes, Brian suggested it. I think he suggested me to you, and I'm just so glad that it all worked out. It really has been a pleasure. This poem is yet another love poem, in this case, the love of a place. And it kind of wraps my interest in love and gratitude in with brief acknowledgement of my interest in the anti-hunger cause. I was lucky enough a few years back to take a writer residency on an island off the northwest coast of Ireland. It's called Achill Island. And in order to get to Achill Island, you have to cross from mainland Ireland over Achill Sound. The only other thing I'll say about the poem is the Irish potato famine, which devastated Ireland, occurred from 1845 to 1849. It was also known as the Irish potato blight famine. The title of the poem is Achill Sound. When the roads curve like sound and dip as if lifting to bow, whenever all thoughts round or cluster, or when hearts call down, is Ireland. And as rich when poor was, or as wise as bare heads in snow ever seemed, and as twigs so frail broke into song, and as true as any blight or potato could be, was Ireland. So when sand laps the senses, or salt drips the edges of dreams, whenever hope streams through such heavens, and moss comes home, or hearts beam down, is Ireland. So Annette, that's my love poem to Ireland.
It was beautiful. I loved it. Thank you so much. Loved it. Both of you are stellar writers, and always a privilege to hear you speak your beautiful work. And the American Sign Language thing was great. I'm glad you let me share that because that was marvelous. Yeah. I think one more time we're going to have Dr. Larew tell us how you will go to his site and you can contribute in both poem and monies. And if you would once again remind people.
Sure. The website is www.poetryx, that's one phrase, poetryxhunger.com. And on the upper menu, there's a button over on the far right. If you hit that, you'll get the submission guidelines, very simple submission guidelines. And you'll see on the front page also, there's a big, bright donate button as well. Thank you, Annette.
Oh, no problem. So please, everyone, donate, share this video as well. My pleasure to have both you gentlemen on here. I've been in good company this evening, and I thank you.
Thank you.
And keep writing, keep inspiring, and keep doing all that you're doing. So we're going to say love and blessings to everyone. I'm supposed to do this now, I guess. Somebody kept doing this because it was too hard. You know who it was? You know who it was, Brian? Who was it?
I believe so. Well, I don't want
It was
to. You can
Raw.
do
It
it.
was Raw.
I
So,
know. I didn't want to say it.
well, I will. I'll put his name out there. He won't. He won't mind. So, but thank you so much and agreeing to come on and to be a part of this, Brian with Hiram. You're both marvelous, and
Appreciate it.
thank
Oh,
you
I
so
wanted
much.
just wanted to say something. Dear brother has a book coming out. I believe you wanted to share that information.
Please do.
Well, I've just signed a contract for my next collection to come out sometime in the next year, 2025. So I'll be working with you, Brian, on the promo because you're such a.
Yeah,
Got you covered.
Thank you. Appreciate the call out. Shout out.
very good, very good. And Brian, it's not going to be long before you also
Oh goodness, no.
have one coming
Yeah,
out.
I have a few offers on the table. I'm just,
Great.
Coming through.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, both of you, very much, and
Take
it's been a
care.
true pleasure. And we'll say goodbye to everyone. So
Good.
goodbye. Thanks for watching, and please share. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.